Great, folks. Welcome to the Heritage Advisory Committee meeting. I'll call this meeting to order at 1:05 p.m. Please note the meeting is video and audio recorded, and all electronic meetings are uploaded to the municipality's YouTube page. By registering to participate in the meeting by electronic means, you are consenting to have your likeness and comments recorded and posted on YouTube. I will now read the township's land acknowledgement statement. The lands we know today as the township of Quislinch have been home to Indigenous people since time immemorial. We acknowledge that we are on the traditional territory of the Hadawin, as well as the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee. With increasing encroachment by non-Indigenous settlers in the township of Quislinch, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee could not continue their traditional lifestyle and settled in their villages along the Credit River and in the Grand River Valley. These Indigenous nations uphold their treaty rights within our jurisdiction. Today, the township of Quislinch remains home to Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We are grateful to have the opportunity to share and respect Mother Earth and are committed to building constructive and cooperative relationships with Indigenous nations. I will now do a roll call of those in attendance. Each committee member will state their names, those in attendance. And then after that, we'll have Laura just make an announcement in regards to TAMs. So we'll start on the far left, and what I'll do is we'll do committee members, and then we'll acknowledge township staff that are present here. So Cheryl? Here. Andy?
Andy here.
Lily? Christy?
Here.
Kristen, sorry. Sarah?
Here.
Laura?
Present.
Just doing it different, right?
Yeah, I like to.
And Justin?
Here.
Thanks, myself, Russell Hurst. So Laura, can you just share with us an announcement in regards to?
I guess the only announcement is that she resigned from the committee, so staff will now work on, we have this morning, we put out the posting for it, and then we'll also schedule stuff to go on our website and socials and stuff to recruit for the new committee member.
Thank you, Laura. So just going through the agenda, our next item is a moment of reflection. So we'll now take a moment and pause and reflect. Okay, agenda item number 4 is the confirmation of the agenda. So the agenda was previously circulated with the meeting notes. Are there any amendments that anybody would like to make to the agenda that had been circulated? Okay, hearing none, I'll ask Laura to read the
That's the
resolution.
Heritage Advisory Committee approves the November 4th agenda as circulated.
Could we have a mover? Seconder? Julie, all in support? Carried. The next item today is item number 5, disclosure of conflict of interests. Does anybody, or is there anybody that would like to flag a conflict of interest based on today's agenda at all?
I've already submitted mine, just because addresses are, it doesn't really matter, but there are addresses there I'm connected to.
Yeah, and that had been previously noted, and that's,
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
Same ones, yeah.
Anything else, Cheryl?
Oh, so is that like on that list? So do I have to go inside?
Well, that's maybe more to provide guidance, but I think, you know, in a similar process, if it's an address that had been previously noted as a conflict in a prior meeting, just acknowledging that it's part of the meeting notes. I don't believe we'll be speaking to that specific address specifically. It's just as part of the package. So I would say, unless you feel differently, Laura, I think just acknowledging that it had been previously noted as a conflict would be satisfactory. Is that okay?
Mhm.
Because we're not looking for a decision on that regard.
No, the report is just for information. It's not. But it's up to the committee members to decide if they wanna disclose a conflict of interest.
I think as chair, I think because we're not making a specific decision on those particular properties, I think just acknowledging that it was in the note and that there was a previous conflict identified, we should be okay. Okay, I don't believe we have any delegations that are presenting today. Okay, item number 7, the consent agenda. So that in the briefing package was the September 9th Heritage Advisory Committee minutes. Is there anything that within those minutes that anybody would like to flag for discussion at all? Okay, hearing none. Were there any edits to the meeting minutes at all that anybody felt needed to be made? Okay, Laura, what do you?
That the consent agenda item listed for the September 9th Heritage Advisory Committee meeting be received for information.
Can we have a mover? Andy, seconder, Cheryl, all in favor? Carried. Great. So we're now into committee reports, agenda item 8.1, report HER 2024-022, the 24-25 designation update. Over to you, Laura, for an update.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the purpose of this report is just to give the committee an overview of both the 2024 and the 2025 designation batches. So for the 2024 properties, council did state their notice of intention to designate last month. So we are now at that objection period stage of the process. And then for the 2025 properties, the statements are still being reviewed by the committee that you guys have been working on. And then those updated statements of cultural heritage value or interest we will bring to the December meeting. So any updates, please give them to me by November 15th so they can be included in the December agenda.
Thanks, Laura. Any questions for Laura? Lily?
Just ask for like a summary. The third batch is what's going through, I think, right now.
Correct. So
The first batch, there's maybe 3 that haven't gotten designated.
Mhm.
That's where the 15 comes from.
yeah, so right now we do have 15 designated properties in the township. And then the 2024 batch of designation includes the 3 properties that objected in the 2023 process. So they're getting looped in again in the 2024 process. So they have, council did state the notice of intention to designate again on those 3 objection properties.
And that's batch 2.
Mhm.
And batch 3 is what we're still working on.
Mhm.
Okay, thank you.
Lots of batches.
That's a lot of properties to get through. Other questions?
Yeah,
for
I had a
Laura?
question just about that second batch, which now has some from the first list of objections. So have those objections been satisfied? Or do we anticipate further objection?
Through you, Mr. Chair, council, when we withdrew the designations, council just directed staff to engage more with the property owners. So staff met with each of the property owners individually to kind of walk through the process again, have them answer any questions, work with them on their statement. As well, I believe one of the property owners at the last meeting delegated to council to share their feelings about the designation. So I think we've done as best as we can, but so I think yes, right, from my opinion.
Yeah, and maybe I can just add a bit of context. And staff may have some additional feedback. I would say that of the 3 properties that did move through that had received expressions of, they didn't want to go through. I think I kind of put it in 2 categories. The first being just maybe a degree of misinformation or misunderstanding around what the designation process was and wasn't, and what those restrictions on those particular properties may be. So for instance, a good example would be is if there's a historical attribute to the building, that would require going through some permitting, but if it was something within that property that had nothing to do with the heritage attribute, some unknownness as to say, want to do an addition and put a garage in the building. If it doesn't put anything negative towards the historical attribute, that's a perfectly acceptable thing to do type of thing. So I think there was some apprehension around that. There was some apprehension around cost of upgrading particular facilities such as roofing and that type of stuff. So I think staff did their best at trying to identify those type of or scenarios that the concerns were expressed with. I think the other ones were some perception around a potential cost of insurance increases and that type of thing, which I think maybe inconclusive would be my opinion in some of those cases. So I think, I would say credit staff of just putting themselves out there to work with those particular property owners to make sure that there is a degree of comfort. And certainly my mindset that those three properties will continue to work through the designation process, albeit a year later than the first cohort. Is that fair? Anything from staff additional? The only other piece I would say is all the pre-work had been done for those three particular properties. So I wasn't, correct me if I'm misspeaking here, but we weren't envisioning that additional historical work needs to be done. It was more just working with those property owners and taking the extra time to make sure that we attempted to satisfy their needs. Good. One question I had, the open houses, can you maybe speak to how that went or how that plan is going? I think that one of the lessons learned, I think we maybe had from the first cohort is to make oneself available as township staff for potential property owners. In the second cohort, potentially the third to open up resources or just have candid conversations with staff on a one-on-one basis, as opposed to say going to the town hall and listening to a presentation. Not everybody receives information the best that way, and sometimes it can be intimidating. So can you maybe just speak to that?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair, the drop-in hours that we had. So we did have 3 different drop-in times, like a morning, an afternoon, and an evening. And we had 2 property owners come. So, I mean, I think it's a great thing to offer. We just never know what the uptake is that we'll get or what we won't get. So yeah, we had 2 different property owners come and just wanna talk to us about the process. And a lot of the times it's just that they don't know much information, so it really is a great chance to then lay everything out for them in an easier sort of way that they can digest it versus a more formal open house that we have later this week where it's a formal presentation and stuff.
No, that's, I appreciate you taking the time in doing that. And as you noted, it's sometimes going to a larger event isn't A, works time wise for people, or B, it can be intimidating. So I think it's kudos to staff for doing that. I think it's important. One of my goals would be that people, all applicable resources are available to those particular property owners that are going through the process. And if they have questions, to make sure that there's lots of opportunity to ask and dialogue, and in every situation's unique, right? So I'm glad that, and I hope that continues to the next cohort.
I'll just ask a follow-up question, Laura, on, so I think you did 3, assuming that with the 2 or 3, you're gonna do 3 site visits. Are there more planned?
We haven't heard back from any other property owners on site visits. So yeah, we did 3 site visits. We haven't heard back from any other property owners this time around.
And is there any feedback from, the homeowner obviously doesn't need to be there for the site visits, but is from the 2 visitors that dropped in, is there any feedback, positive or other?
I think the feedback is more, the property owners are of an understanding they're on the register and now that's changing and what does that mean for my property? And then it's just kind of explaining them the designation process and what that kind of means. And I think also it's quite helpful that now we have the heritage permit bylaw in place, so we can point them in a direction of how they can proceed if they want to make changes to their house versus before we were saying we're going to have something in place. Now it's really nice to say we do have something in place. And it's not that you can't do something, but there's just a process in place when you want to do that.
There were some gated properties that we cannot attach to a proper description, I guess, of their features, because we don't know what the problem is. Is there a means for staff to force a visit, or? I mean, it sounds like it's forcing, but you need permission to
Yeah.
on the properties. I'm just wondering if there's another means to, we can't really, designate them if there's no input from them.
Right. We don't wanna go to the property unless they've consented to it. For the toughest part is at the beginning of the process, we only have their mailing address.
Mm.
The people that we had the drop-in visits from, we were able to get their emails, so like now, once we have a contact list of people for anything we have going forward, we'll be able to reach out to them via email. But for a lot of them, we don't have it, so I don't know.
I wonder, here's just a suggestion, so looking at the documentations, there's paperwork from the Historical Society. I'm not quite sure, there's a big accumulation of stuff, maybe all the numbers, but they did site visits and they just sent a letter saying we'll be here at such and such a day. Let us know if that's not good, otherwise we will show up and you don't need to, is there a way of doing that and just attempting to visit some?
I feel staff wanna stay away from entering a property without permission. And they.
Okay.
Mhm.
Maybe as an alternative that, we could word it how important it is if they don't agree with the features or if some of these features have been changed to let us know, because, maybe that would be, I know we list them, but maybe like, I'm just going by the
Yeah.
letter that went out and I
Through
know
Mr. Yeah, through Mr. Chair, we could definitely work on updating the wording of it to make it sound a bit like they can work with us on the statement. With that being said, I think staff have noticed, once we send out the notice of intention to designate, suddenly the property owner's interested. They're not interested when we just want a site visit or when we send them the statement, but when we do get that notice of intention to designate, we do start to get more feedback. And it's also nice to know that we have, from when council states their notice of intention to designate to the 120-day period when the designation bylaw is passed, that we're able to work with the property owner and update those heritage attributes and update the statements slightly. So, for example, Justine and I, a couple weeks ago, went to a property where council did state their notice of intention to designate, just because he wanted a few of the attributes to be updated. He's very pro designation and wants his property to be designated, but he just wanted to make sure that we had the right attributes, and then now we can update them after that.
So I think the fact that you're constantly learning through each of these
Mhm.
processes and improving what you're doing, I think is quite positive from my standpoint. I think take Cheryl's comments, I think are quite applicable. Maybe the tone can be, help us work through the process. I
Right.
think, and that this is important, but I'd also, you're right, the moment they get a formal letter, all of a sudden their interest peaks, so. Yeah, I think it's a challenge. I don't think, can't go on properties that are unannounced type of thing. That becomes a very difficult thing for municipalities. So I think we just try to put ourselves out there constantly to have those conversations.
To clarify, if there's nothing heard from an owner all the way through the process, the property is designated anyway, right?
That's
So
correct.
whether we're in the end able to do a site visit really doesn't create a roadblock to designating the property.
Correct, and we try to do the best with the research we have.
It aids to the process because you can have a dialogue with the homeowner.
Oh, it's better for sure.
Glean
Yeah.
information, but you're perfectly accurate. Okay, any other questions for Laura on this particular report, HER 2024-022?
List. Sorry, I'm not looking through.
If not,
Yeah, the resolution is that report HER 2024-022 entitled Heritage Designation Process Update be received for information.
can we have a mover? Andy,
1 second.
Christine seconded. All right, all in favor? Carried, okay. All right, Laura, back to you. Report HER 2024-023, the Westland Heritage Designation and Associate Programs, and you can give us an update on.
Yeah,
this report.
through you, Mr. Chair, the purpose of this report is just to provide the committee with the data and kind of a status update on where we're at for the designations as well as the properties that have been added to our digital archive and mapping. And then sort of an update on the heritage permit process. I know that the committee had we talked at the last September meeting about having this sort of update report annually.
Thanks, Laura. So maybe two brief things before we open it up for questions. So I would just note the previously noted conflicts within this list. Just to note that. And the second is, I appreciate this is a very exhaustive list, but I think it's really good that we keep track of these type of things, just to track progress. So I'll open it up. Do we have any questions for Laura on the report or the list that was provided? Just keeps getting longer and better, so this is good.
So I
Question?
have I guess a comment, we were already talking about this one, but the last one about the 45 properties. I guess is now a good time to make a suggestion for the next round of properties, or is there a better spot for that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think we'll just, once at the December meeting, when we pass the 2025 ones, I think at that meeting at the same time, we'll also bring sort of comments for the next batch that we can do.
Those comments, and I'll make a note of,
And staff will bring a report for that next batch also in December.
it's good. Other questions at all?
Is this the part of the, report where all the properties are listed? Because, I mean, 47 Whitcomb Way is still on there, which that house has been demolished. So that should be removed from the.
I can make that note.
Clarify it had two addresses for a little while. That's comments.
Did you capture that one?
Mhm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Those always good things to pull out. Good. Any other questions for staff? All right, so with the note that 47 Whitcomb Way property should be modified or deleted. Beyond that, I think we're good.
Okay, so the resolution for that report is that report HER just 2024-023 entitled Puslinch Heritage Designation and Associated Programs be received for information.
Can we have a mover? Cheryl, thank you. Lily seconded, all in support? Carried. All right. Next one, agenda item 8.3, report HER 2024-024, the school bell. So I'll maybe have Laura, you can walk us through this. And then
Through you, Mr. Chair, the purpose of this report is just to seek the committee's comments on the school bell design. Council had kind of asked for the committee's comments, and in the report, you can kind of see there's two different options that council is looking at for the design. So I think council's just looking for if you like option one, if you like option two, if you have any comments at all. So one has the arch and one doesn't have the arch.
Thanks, Laura. And there were some associated budgets with that.
Yes.
And I think the only other thing, maybe before we open it up to questions, can you just maybe speak a little bit of the historical lead up to this decision? So initially, the school bill had been stored for quite a period of time. We had a formal letter from Marjorie Clark requesting that the township this isn't the right way of saying it, do something with it or acknowledge it, and then had some recommendations as to what she envisioned it being as kind of the pre-work, and that's kind of what led us to this discussion today.
Yeah.
Is that accurate?
Yeah, through you, Mr. Chair. So the Historical Society and Marjorie delegated through written delegation to council in the summer, kind of saying that they have this bell that they would like to donate to the township. And then in that letter, which is kind of where was our jumping off point for what the cairn would look like. In that letter, she said that The Historical Society envisions the cairn to be erected in a similar way to what it looked like in the Morston Historic Corner Block, I think that's what it's called. So once we heard that, we then reached out to the same people who had built that cairn previously, and then those are the quotes and the information we received back from that contractor. We wanted to give an option to both council and the committee for one with the arch and everything, and then one just without it, just to see the costing difference in it.
Like, so just for clarity, option one would be the option from the builder that had done the one in Morriston as it's comparable. Okay. I'll open it up for questions. I think this is an exciting thing from a Heritage Committee standpoint, to be able to provide some guidance as to what these type of historical monuments look like within your community. So I'll open it up for any questions that anybody has of staff or perspectives that you may choose to share.
I was wondering
Sure.
if the contractor, gave any feedback as to, is there more protection with the one with the going above? Like, does that give it more protection from rusting or anything like that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, the contractor didn't say one way or the other, but we can definitely put that in our comments back to council to consider. One option would have the bell rusting for quicker than another option, and that might totally be the case.
And it's not that the one in Morston fully covers the belt, so it's not, a full protection thing, like maybe you could do this section, like the second option and build more of a roof thing over them. But like not out of the stone, but that was just one thing I wondered if it was going to save us down the road by giving us more protection for the bell itself.
So just a follow-up question for you on that one, Cheryl, and I don't know this, but based on your knowledge as a resident down in that part of the community, would you say that the bell down in Morriston has significantly degraded over the years, or has it been in pretty good condition?
It's been in pretty good condition.
I'm just curious.
I don't know if the township or if any volunteers from the village have actually coated the bell or something like that, like gave it some protection. I could see Jerry Warner doing something like that on his own. But it is still in pretty good shape, so.
That's maybe something for staff to consider, if there are any treatments that the bell can be provided with to maintain its integrity. And it's certainly not a level of area of knowledge I'm very well versed in, but that's maybe something to consider.
Is this gonna be a working bell?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no.
And I ask because on the photographs, right, if there is in fact a way to ring this bell, I think it's important for us to know about that.
Right, I don't believe the bell that's the family is giving to us even has the little thing,
Okay.
the ticker in it.
Dinger.
Is that the technical name?
Can you tell, I'm not an expert in all things bells.
So I guess my comment would be, well, I mean, cheaper is always nice, but it's actually visibility. I mean, these school bells were meant to weather the weather. So they're not gonna be flimsy. And I do think that, some kind of enclosure, it would be really too bad, just because then you can't see it the same, you can't touch it. And I would think that it would be lovely to have it super visible, from a distance. And my question actually was about the fieldstone, and will it be local fieldstone?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I don't necessarily know. I know that the contractor that gave us these quotes is local, so I don't know if he normally uses local fieldstone or anything like that.
I think it would be in keeping with our tradition, in the area. So much is built with local fieldstone. It, to me, be really appropriate in this instance.
Yeah, we can definitely ask.
There are likely people that would donate the stone.
I've got lots of stone. If they come and dig it out,
Right.
that'd be great.
Through you, Mr. Chair, we can definitely reach out and ask and see.
Those are round.
And include it in our comments back, yeah.
Oh, I have so
It's
much.
Flat stuff, yes, already flat.
Oh, I have all the kinds.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
I don't think stones in this township is a limiting factor.
Yeah,
Okay, Lily?
and, just with the difference in pricing, do we know if it's just because of the kind of the overhead design? Is that what the, so if we were to use the style of fieldstone as the original, which neither of these two are in, it might be better incorporating local fieldstone. I don't know if it depends on what the cost would be and if they can at all look like the other one. And that's funny because my thoughts were also local fieldstone and then also the bell being exposed
Mhm.
for where the touching part, I hadn't considered that, but I'd heard Cheryl mention that the bell used to ring, so they had to stop it from ringing. So it was too loud. But I'm not sure if we want kids crawling all over it. So maybe like a plexiglass or something and covering it.
But
would
maybe
be-
we do want kids calling in there.
Yeah.
Do we? Normally they're in the schoolhouses up top where the kids can't touch
Yeah,
them.
I just-
They do
I
have
just-
coverage.
I just think
There's-
it's nice engagement when our kids are participating in, and they want to touch things. I mean, hopefully they're not, licking it in the winter, but I think they're not gonna, I don't think their oils from their hands are gonna hurt it or anything.
No,
I think it'd be
And-
great if it was engaged.
I agree with Christine. I've always let my kids and my grandkids go down and do whatever with the bell because it is something that they can relate to, something that's fun for them to look at.
I suspect there might be a playground hazard though with it. If the platform's too big, like the first option of the two, has it a smaller platform that'd be harder to climb.
Through you, Mr. Chair, maybe I should clarify. So option one is a picture of what's at Morriston Corner Block. That is kind of what that option would look like. Option two, those are pictures of what local communities have done for their school bells. Ours won't look exactly to that by any means. But those are just examples of ones we found that didn't have that arch on it.
Is there any budget for landscaping around this installation?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I'm not sure what would be available in terms of landscaping. We haven't specifically included it, as part of the proposal that went to council. We can certainly, update if that is a comment from the committee. Include it. I'm not sure what would be available through, like the existing landscaping budget that goes with our, under our, parks, budget. But if the committee wanted to make a recommendation to look at including budget related to incorporating landscaping, that could be part of what comes from the council for consideration.
When we went for the picture, opportunity at the community center, we kind of looked at different spots the belt could go, and has a spot been chosen or?
Yeah, go for it.
Through you, Mr. Chair, not a specific spot in general, I believe, when staff last spoke with our Director of Public Works, it would go near the tennis courts. That new walkway leading up to the tennis courts on. I don't know, the north side of the road, so is that further from the road or closer to the road? It would go near the tennis courts around the community center.
And maybe if I can attempt to give a geographical perspective. So if you're standing in the parking lot where the community center is looking towards the tennis courts, there's a paved path towards the doorway to enter the tennis court compound. And there, since the township has re-landscaped that whole area, there's a large number of armor stones that are put around there, so you can't basically drive a vehicle into the grass. My understanding was, and correct me if I'm misunderstood, but the Director of Public Works had indicated it would be placed adjacent to the path there. I'm not sure if it was on the left side of the path or the right side of the path. That's probably, to be determined at some point. But I think that the concept was that it was in a highly visible place. It's a high traffic area through the community center, so that the plaque on it would be notable. It wouldn't be tucked in the, a far corner of the property at all. It'd be in a prominent place. The one consideration that was noted was snow removal. And that, because obviously there's a lot of snow that's managed through there, but the feeling was that because it's placed in behind the armor stones, that would be in a somewhat protected place. So I don't want to speak for the director of public works as to if physical like X marks the spot, but the direction I got, from what I heard, was that it would be in that general vicinity. Yeah.
As part of the delegation, I recall that it was hoped or expected that this memorial to the bell would represent all 12 school sections. I think so far we're talking about the budget, including like a memorial plaque, but what about some, I don't know, a bigger installation, maybe inside that just outlines for the, maybe just for the unveiling all the 12 schoolhouses?
So, like another flag?
I'm even thinking, well, my thought is to like something like these. I think there was a picture inside at one point for the first township hall. Not sure, someone was asking if they could take that down, I think. So I don't know how permanent it should be, but the bell would obviously be the display and bell sitting there, but it's supposed to represent all 12. I don't know if there's some way to incorporate that.
Maybe we could make a poster next year, is what I was thinking.
Oh, okay.
Like, if we have the door poster, I mean, maybe we could do a schoolhouse,
Something like that.
The
Christine?
Mr. Chair, what I might recommend is, so relating to the unveiling of the bell, there is going to be a community event where the grounds will be unveiled, it'll be related to the Central Community Showcase, and maybe there would be an opportunity for the Heritage Committee to create a display that and set up a table as part of the event, where the history of the remaining schoolhouses could be shared. And maybe there'd be an opportunity to partner with the Historical Society to create that presentation.
I like that. I don't want to lose this thought because I think it's important around schoolhouses. So maybe if I can request at our December meeting, maybe we can put a bit more thought to this as to what it may look like. I'm not sure in the middle of that committee meeting's the best time to dream stuff up, but maybe my request would be that we can work offline with staff and for our December meeting, come back with a bit more of an idea of what this may look like. I'm cognizant of can't do this at the last second, so the event for next summer, I'm not sure if there's a date yet, is there?
Through Mr. Chair, we're tentatively targeting October 4th, 2025.
Okay, so we'll need to do some work in the lead up to that, so maybe my suggestion would be is for our December meeting, we can have a report, at least breaks out some ideas, a bit more granularity, and if that's something we want to move forward with as a committee, then we can develop our work plan for 2025 so that can get showcased at that event. Really?
So,
Oh,
well, Justine said maybe work with the Historical Society, and I think that would be something that would save a lot of cost to the township and be something that we would be interested probably in doing. We'd like to do different displays for the Fall Fair and Canada Day anyway. So if we worked on one, then the next year we could show it again. So
I like that.
Just add, I believe there's an anniversary number for 2025 for, is it 25? For the Historical Society? Oh, that's
sorry, it's this year.
That's this year,
Mhm.
2024.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's our 40th.
40 this year, okay, so that's a little past that.
Yeah.
And what's 175?
The township is turning 175 next year.
Oh, okay.
That's why the original request from Marjorie, the
Perfect.
idea of it being in 2025 was because it's the 175th anniversary of the township.
All right, I think there's something to this. we'll leave it for some dialogue and
Just
come back in
Through you,
December.
Mr. Chair, to clarify, do you want staff to bring a report? Do you want staff to bring a report on like options of what the unveiling ceremony could be in correlation with the showcase, or?
I'm not looking for anything that detailed.
Okay, just want to be,
What I'm looking for is some bullet point ideas around what we can do as a committee and working with the Historical Society to showcase the schoolhouses in the township
Mhm,
in preparation for the October unveiling as a side project.
mhm.
I'm not envisioning a huge amount of staff time. I think this is more at the committee level and the Historical Society level. What I would look for is staff to give us a guidance, a framework of what this may look like.
Okay, yeah, we can definitely bring some direction back in December. The second piece, I guess, is I know what Christine had said she preferred option 2. Is that like a consensus at the committee level? Do we want to say option 1 or option 2? I have a couple other comments back to council, but I think we should, if the committee does recommend one of the options versus the other, I think it's good to put that in the comments as well. It's also okay if they don't have a,
I think we need to ask for budget, is that what you're saying?
we have
This is
budget.
our- Okay, so can that
mhm.
include the posters that we're talking about for display as well? Do we need? extra?
That would be a complete, that piece of it is different. That would probably be a separate piece that we would have to work through totally. This is just the, like,
Karen, okay.
the
that's
design of the
coming
Karen would
from-
be itself.
Mentioned it.
So, yeah, let's try to compartmentalize this. So I think we're looking for guidance on the structure, the bell
Mhm.
structure. We have kind of two thoughts here. One was the arch that Marjorie had, I believe, in her correspondence
Mhm.
getting a few months ago now, but I think she had given the Morriston one as an example of typical architecture that she envisioned it for. Correct me if I'm misspeaking.
Mhm.
And or the other option being an exposed bell. Which is a bit different than maybe what Marjorie had indicated, but there are benefits of showcasing the bell. One could envision if it's in the arch, it's maybe a bit harder to see. I think as chair, I would tend to recommend it being historically significant to the community. I love the idea of local fieldstone in the construction of whatever form it takes. But again, just to kind of circle back to Laura's request, we need to attempt to land on a recommendation for council to consider. Budget wise, option 1 had been included in the draft budget, I believe. Justine, correct me if I'm wrong. That's the high watermark, if you will. But I think from my perspective, I err to historically significant architecture. I think is really important, especially in showcasing this school bell. But I'll open it to feedback on one more round of guidance, and hopefully we can come to some consensus here. Thoughts?
I would speak in favor of option 2. And what's more is because of where you've explained it, I would advocate for no landscaping, but simply grass around it, which makes it easy to maintain, in that space.
Okay, others? Support, differ?
Wonder if we could get a bit more closer to like the combination of design that we've talked to. And like a,
Mock-up, you mean?
yeah, I mean, to make sure that they can do it within the budget, but like the global budget obviously makes more sense. But if we could see if we can incorporate the style of the fieldstone that's more local.
The second
Yeah.
option does say Phil.
Yes, I believe
It's a
so.
natural fieldstone.
But that
the
doesn't
des-
mean it's from here.
Yeah, and the design isn't the same the way the fieldstone blade in any of those. One's brick, so obviously the first of the two, option 2A, I guess, is what I've been looking at.
Through you, Mr. Chair, the examples that were put in the report are purely examples in terms of being like an exposed bell.
Right,
The
okay.
style at the bottom is that it would be shorter and there's no arch, but the idea is that the design of the one without the arch would look the same as the Morrison one, just
Okay.
without an arch.
Oh, that's the only difference. Okay.
Yes.
Okay, so that takes care of what I was just saying, but I would add that maybe we could look into doing like a winter protection to it. I think that's been an ongoing comment to be worried about. And I suspect there might be some issues with exposed and crawled on belt, but.
I think water, right, in the freeze thaw cycle.
Yeah.
And surely there are smart people who've done this before and they'll know the answer, that we either need to treat it or protect it, or we don't. There's probably, we know a lot more about that. So it's a good question.
And I can ask those questions to her,
Yeah.
throughout the process.
Cheryl, Andy, any perspectives?
I always have trouble choosing.
So I guess what I'm hearing, I think we're seeing some consensus for option 2, minimal landscaping to showcase it. And request staff look at bell preservation options, given that it'll be an exposed bell. And not our wheelhouse in terms of what that may look like, but there may be some budget considerations associated with that. Is that fair? Do you have enough direction?
Pretty much, right?
What was option 1 versus option 2 turned into more? Okay,
Well, I think it's option 2 with
Yeah.
ideally local fieldstone and to explore preservation options.
I'll read to you what I've got. So that report HER-2024-024 entitled Killian School Bell Cairn Design be received for information. And that the committee provides the following comments with respect to the design of the school bell. The committee recommends option 2 due to the visibility of the school bell, that the cairn be constructed with local fieldstone, and that staff seek feedback from the contractor regarding any preservation options.
I would say requirements, not options, maybe just.
Regarding preservation
Yeah.
requirements, yeah.
Yeah, just if there's anything that we need to do to make sure.
And I would say that I felt option 2, as long as it could be preserved as well.
Right.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is an option 1 last.
No, I think that's good. And maybe, I think you've captured it well. My only other request would be is, once you've had the opportunity to explore those preservation options, can you share that with the committee? Whether it's just via email, or I don't know if it needs to be in a formal report, but just because that recommendation, I think that ties the loop in.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
And that is how to properly pronounce Killian? Anybody?
Killian,
It's Killeen.
Killian?
Did I say Killian? I take it back. I always said Killeen. You never heard me say anything else.
I don't know the answer. I'm
I
new
know,
here,
it's a
so-
great question.
Okay,
I've always pronounced it Killeen.
I think that's how the Scots would have said it, right? Killian?
But then there's McLean up the street, so is it McLean?
I have to write stuff phonetically or I will butcher it.
It's not dirty, it's clean.
We go. Remember that for the notes when it's in there. Okay, I think we're good, Laura. Okay.
I just
So
need to move her in a second.
can you just reword it one last time, just because we've been jumping around a little bit, and then we'll have a motion.
Yeah, so I have the 3 bullets. I have that the committee recommends option 2 due to the visibility of the school bell, that the cairn be constructed with local fieldstone, and that staff seek feedback from the contractor regarding preservation requirements.
Right, can we have a mover?
I'll move that.
Steve, seconder, Andy, all in favor? Carried. All right, good discussion. Yeah, as I said, this is like exciting stuff for me because it's like, this is things you will see enacted at some point. So. All right, back to the agenda. Number 8.4, report HER 2024-025, 2022 through 26 goals and objectives. And it's over to you, Laura.
Through you, Mr. Chair. The purpose of this report is to review all of the committee's goals and objectives that they're working on. I think it's pretty plain and simple this time.
Yeah, any questions for Laura?
I guess just one comment from staff is that staff have made the recommendation through the 2025 user fees and charges bylaw to cut the price of the posters from $20 to $10 to try to sell some posters.
We could give them away.
And when we often get requests for donations and stuff, we have been giving them to people if they have requested.
So I need to request a donation.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that's well positioned. We have a
One thing.
Yeah.
plethora of them. Okay, great, looking for a mover of this report for goals and objectives. Andy, seconder, who wants it? Cheryl, all right, all in support. All right. Correspondence, number 9, any correspondence that anything you want to flag, Laura? Number 10, announcements, any announcements that we have? I know one on the walking tour that I wanted to flag with Cheryl.
I also have an announcement, but I can.
Okay, Laura has one, and okay, Cheryl, if you can you share some of the highlights of the walking tour that took place?
Sure, I'll try. Well, we were thrilled that there was about 50 people that came, and that didn't necessarily include all the people that were tour guides and working on the enactments. We had a lot of good feedback from the people in attendance, and we had actually even a few donations to the Historic Society from people who enjoyed it so much and felt that we should have charged admission, so they gave us donations. We felt it was long, but people had the option of doing the whole thing or part of it. We were probably about a 25% at the end for the people. There was lots of things that we learned how we could improve it for the next time. The fact that people were dressed up and told part of the stories was exciting to those that were there. And it just generated a good feeling of people who had come back. Some had traveled quite far to heard about it and to see, the town they grew up in. So, Lily might want to add a little bit more.
Yeah, just a little bit. It was interesting to have, there's a few people that attended the part that I did. I had the hilly part that was really long, so people skipped out by the end of it. But I had a warlock descendant that spoke to me about, and there was another one. And there was actually two people that had historical ties to the ancestry and the village. And it's quite interesting to see it from almost firsthand, as close as you can get to how Marsden was settled. Almost, 100 and so on years ago, right? It was interesting.
Any questions for Cheryl before? I'm curious, is there plans at all to do this again at any form, or is that still early days?
I think our next thing that we would do is take all our information and notes and research, put it together and probably into a slideshow. One of the pieces of feedback was that so many people wanted to do the whole thing, but weren't physically able to. And so we thought we've already got the research, so we thought that would be our first important step. This is the second tour, but the first tour we did, and I'm not even sure when, I wasn't a part of it, but probably about 15 years ago. And the same group had asked for us to do another tour. So the first time was just Victoria Street, and this time we tripled it, and they really enjoyed the whole thing. The other thing we'd like to do is, since we've got the research again, is to put in, maybe make a pamphlet of a self-guided walking tour. And, but we assume that we'll probably, give a few years and do it again, or do a different area would be.
I love the idea of a self-guided tour. The one thought, and again, not to like dump stuff on township staff at all, but I'm. There may be some opportunities there with Wellington County around their tourism program to help support something like that. Again, it's beyond my knowledge base, but if that is the desire of the group, certainly reach out and follow up, because I think, you know, my mindset is anything we can do to help support those type of things, like we should type of thing. That's my perspective. So I'll leave it. Thank you for sharing that. I think those are just like really exciting community things to do, and I just wanted to make a note during the committee meeting to share that took place and was quite successful. So thanks, Cheryl. Other items.
I don't know.
Oh, you had,
Yeah.
sorry.
I just wanted to quickly say that we have our the next heritage designation open house this Wednesday. It's November the 6th. And it'll be at the community center. And I think it'll be similar format to the one we had in April of this year, but we've invited all of the next batch of property owners to be there. And anytime I've spoken with a property owner, I've let them know about it, tell them to come to it. So we're hoping for a good turnout, and the presentation will start at 7 at the community center. So if any of the committee members are available, more than welcome to come.
I guess I'm wondering, are we prepared for what I would call in church meetings dissent? Like, we learned last time that may be a possibility, and are we prepared for that? Are the staff protected properly? Do they feel they have strategies to cope with that in ways that are helpful?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I think so. I think we've learned enough from the last couple. And as well, along with preparing a presentation, we've also kind of had conversations about questions or feedback that we might get and how to respond to that if it gets brought up. So hopefully, yes.
And, at the other meeting, we talked about maybe like improving the sound because some people couldn't hear, so, that would be.
I'll
an
speak
important-
loudly and quietly, or loudly and
Okay.
slowly.
I think that's very important. And I think it's important for the staff, if there's a way for us to formally acknowledge from this committee our support. It's important to me that the staff feel safe and that they feel properly supported. So as much as we can offer that, it's really hard to make a difficult presentation like that when your audience is not necessarily receptive. So I just want to go on record as saying that we support that work and appreciate its difficulty.
Have the other people been invited as well, like, or is it just the group that's coming up now? Because there's people, the attendance wasn't 100%, so maybe some of the people that weren't able to attend in the past, but I know it's 2 days before, so it's like.
Yeah.
Through you,
Did
Mr.
we
Chair,
write the-
we mail the notices directly to those who are identified as priority properties in this round. But with that being said, we do always amplify the open house through our social media channels and on our website.
Perfect. It's about as much as you can do.
That's good. Yeah, because I think there are just members of the community that may be interested. So if it's going out through your applicable channels, I think that's the right level of effort. Okay, good. Looking forward to it. I will be there. And it's not mandatory for committee members to be there, but highly encouraged. Okay. Don't on my agenda. New business. Do you have any new business that anybody would like to flag? No?
I think looking at Morriston, and I've just been immersed a little bit more in there, having been to a few of the conservation efforts from the historical societies, and attending some of their meetings and sessions. I've come across something called a historical district. I think, speaking to a few committee members, we've kind of looked at our township, and Morriston is likely the only, if not, like, the first, if not only one that would probably qualify. I wonder if we could move towards that, whether we do it is another question, but with the 45 properties remaining, perhaps we could incorporate any ones from Morrison in that batch first, the next batch.
Mhm.
That almost brings us to the end of our 4-year term. But also to maybe, I don't know if it's something staff can look into, if I can put a proposal to just look at what might be involved in creating a historical district.
Through you, Mr. Chair, when we bring that report in December for the next batch of properties, I can definitely put the ones in Morriston kind of at the top that the committee, if the committee wants to look at those, make sure that we've looked at all of those. When you're talking about like a historical district in Morriston, that would have to, again, it would just kind of, we would have to follow that process of doing that goals and objectives proposal form. And then we would bring it to council and council, like for council's consideration. And then at that point in time, it could get added as one of our goals and objectives that the committee could work towards. I'm just not sure. I'm not necessarily well versed in historical districts, so I would need, I don't know if we would need, I don't know if there would be a budget ask involved in that and what that would entail. So if it is a budget ask, that might not be until 2026.
I think it would probably take a budget
Mhm.
ask to look into it or to do it. I'm thinking it's a few years from what
Mhm.
I've seen to make it happen, but the one thing I've noticed is the official plan needs to allow for it, so that would be outside of the committee.
Through you, Mr. Chair, if it requires an official plan amendment, there would be a budget ask associated with it. We would have to work with the township's planning consultant, MPG, on what that process would look like and what the fees and process associated with it would be. So with that being said, I think probably a big component of that goals and objectives proposal would be identifying that the township planner would need to be retained, and we'd have to get a quote and the budget associated with what that work would look like.
Good guidance, thank you. Let's try to. So I think there's something to the historical district, so maybe in the short term, that doesn't require a huge amount of staff time and financials. For our next round
Mhm.
of priority setting, we can recommend that the properties in Morriston be flagged.
Mhm.
That sets us up for the first step in this process. And then as part of the work plan, I think I'll share my perspective as chair of this committee. I think our first priority is working through the designation process. I'm sensitive that we get too many competing activities going on at the same time. That said, for 2025 onward, it's noted we're kind of have about 2 years left in this term of council. So I would say maybe a really good option would be by the end of this term, the foundational work for formally exploring a historical district be done. And that the next term of council and the Heritage Committee, that be something that they could look to enact. But if we do the pre-work and set the stage up for success, I think that's maybe what end of 2026 may look like for this committee. I'm sensitive that we don't just like keep piling stuff on township staff here. But I don't want to lose this concept because I think it's really important. And if we do the pre-work in the next 2 years, then the next iteration of this Heritage Committee, and I sincerely hope all of you are on it personally. That's a really good launching point, I think, because I just envision it being a lot of work, and a lot of planning and a lot of budget aspects, but I think also if we're really looking at, we've got a unique aspect in that pocket within Morriston to be able to do something. So I don't want to lose this concept at all.
And maybe as a first step would be then to develop that goals and objectives proposal form, just to see where we can be at. And maybe staff can take it away and look at any next steps at the December meeting, and maybe we could even assign a subcommittee that, I think the first step would be kind of assign a subcommittee that would do that goals and objectives work or the pre-work. And then if we could do that to at least know the steps for it to be put in place. Mhm.
Does that make sense for everybody?
Mhm.
I very much envision this is probably in calendar year 2025. It's working through the pre-work steps. And 26 would be probably where, to maybe to your point, Justine, that's probably where the budget ask would come, because I think we're in the budget cycle now, like council's already working on 2025 budget, so I think for this project, we can get as much pre-work done that doesn't require cold hard cash or consultant work. We do that in 25 and then funding request would be for 26. If that makes sense, just cycle wise.
Mhm. And maybe staff can just include them in the goals and objectives report for December. Just start a subcommittee for this goal.
Love it. Okay, stay tuned for heavy meeting in December.
Okay, so because it's new business, though, I think we need a resolution. 1 second.
Yeah.
The resolution could be just that could it be just as simple as what you said, Jay? Okay, so why don't we just have the resolution that
We didn't receive the Morriston Conservation District,
Historical.
historical district. Morriston Historical District.
Heritage Conservation District.
Yeah,
Oh, it is a
yeah,
conservation?
So Heritage Conservation
That's
District,
what I was looking at.
goals and objectives, for information, and that, staff will report back with next steps for the goals and objectives proposal at the December meeting.
Mhm.
So two things. Historical district versus. Take away.
We can refine what it actually is. I think the other piece, just to add to that, would be, forested properties be flagged for priority.
Yes, that, I did note that, so that's.
Yeah, we can just take that away.
Mhm.
You started that discussion, so if you want to make a motion.
Okay.
Good second. Who wants it? Andy, all right, all in support of moving forward with this? Great, carried. Okay. Looking forward to a discussion in December and onward. I think, again, I think this is a good long-term play for us as a community. We've got a great opportunity in Morriston, and I think this is a really good idea. And my goal would be is once we get our near-term work done, this is another project to launch into thereafter. Okay, any other new business that anybody has to flag? Okay. Hearing none, can I get a motion to adjourn the meeting?
That the committee hereby adjourns at 2:12 PM.
So moved.
Seconder? Lily? All in support? All right, meeting